Welcome back. I am Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are breaking down the Pittsburgh Steelers 3-round mock draft and the players we selected. But before we do that, be sure to like, subscribe, and also ring the bell to get notified when new Steelers content is created by the Tracy Take. We are doing a bunch of 3-round, 7-round, and also individual mock drafts every single Monday leading up to the 2024 NFL Draft. Also, too, we're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the Super Bowl. We're doing a 3-round mock draft for all 32 teams, which means just about 15 or 16 new subscribers per video. So if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. It is the easiest way to help out growing our channel. And Ryan, let's pull up these slides here. So quickly, just to orient you on what you're looking at here. Obviously, the pick in yellow, that was the Steelers pick. That's who we selected for them. But we did include a couple picks before and after just to provide some context of who was taken and available around this time. Also to the right, you can see a couple other potential options for this pick, the players, then the team that picked them, and actually what pick number that was. So we ended up going with Terry Arnold here. I really like this player. I think he has a really high ceiling and as one of the younger corners coming out of this class as well. So going alongside Kool-Aid McKinstry, they go back-to-back here. They were a very dominant cornerback duo in Alabama and played against a lot of really good receivers. So curious kind of on what your thoughts are with the Steelers pick, because I feel they could go a lot of different directions. I think they probably could go interior offensive line if there was a player available here. Maybe they could go with Troy Fatano and kick him in. But what are your overall thoughts on the Steelers selection here?
Yeah, Terran Arnold, really athletic corner. Kool-Aid McKinstry, to me, is the better one of the two. However, Terran Arnold has a lot of physical traits, very athletic, that like to be desired in NFL corners. I just think he hasn't quite put it all together yet. Now, with that being said, there isn't a cornerback in this class. Like from last year, I would have Devon Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez. I think above of just about everybody in this cornerback class. And so there's not really a guy that I think you can plug in like from day one and be like, that's our corner one. But I do think there's a lot of guys that can develop into top corners in the NFL. And Terran Arnold definitely has the physical traits to do that. He's, I believe, 6 foot 190, has good length. He can play inside, outside. Not necessarily going to be a guy I think you want to put some weight on and potentially move to safety. But definitely, I think, going to be at the very least a good slot or a good nickel corner for a defense here. And when you look at what the struggles really were for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they really didn't struggle to get pressure on the quarterback. And when Minkah Fitzpatrick was healthy, they didn't really give up a lot of big plays. It was just their corners were just getting beat. They invested in Joey Porter Jr., and he had a good, not great rookie season. You saw why they drafted him at, I believe, 34 overall, but you also saw why he fell to 34 overall. And so I think it's just going to be an interesting pick here. It's going to take some development, but I think when it's all said and done, Terran Arnold will be worthy of being the 20th overall pick.
Yeah, I think I would put in those top tier of the 4 corners in this class. Yeah. Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid, and then also Terran Arnold as well. And I really feel it's like I think we had Nate Wiggins go first, actually.
Yeah, I believe so.
We had Nate Wiggins go first to the Chicago Bears at pick 13. Bears traded back in our mock draft. But I can honestly see potentially them being like, hey, actually, Terran Arnold's our guy. I can see all these guys rotating in and out depending on which team feels it's their best need. Because they all are different in their own unique kind of way, but all I would put on like that same level. So it'll be interesting to see how it shapes out here for how the corners go and also where Terran Arnold ends up going. Let's move on now to their second-round pick here. I think another area also addressing that defensive side of the ball, because as we mentioned, the defensive line, we feel very confident in. I mean, anything really with TJ Watt on the defensive line is going to be good.
Yeah.
But we felt that they had some good value here going with Jeremiah Trotter. He's the second linebacker off the board. I like either him or Edrin Cooper, but he was taken just before him. I think this is also a sneaky receiver spot as well to go get a slot receiver. Jalen Polk's one of the guys that we included in there as a potential option. So, Ryan, what's your overall thoughts on this pick and this type of, I would say, philosophy going with the first two picks are defensive picks?
Yeah, so I think they miss out on the quarterback kind of carousel here, being at 20. So they go defensive side of the ball because I think that's where actually their biggest holes are outside of the quarterback position. I think Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, great running back tandem there. Broderick Jones, this offensive line actually performed really well on the stat sheets in 2023. Then you look Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, like that's a good wide receiver duo. Then you have Pat Freiermuth there in the middle. And I think where a lot of the faults came in was once when those top guys went down on the defensive side of the ball, there were no other playmakers to really step up. So I think you go and you get a Terry Arnold and a Jeremiah Trotter, and those guys come in, and maybe their rookie season, they're like just really solid depth pieces. Maybe they're part-time contributors. But when you look at building a defense as a whole, adding guys like Jeremiah Trotter, who in my opinion is kind of the quintessential modern day linebacker, 6'3", 230. He's going to play well in coverage. He's going to come downhill and be a little bit bigger than some running backs, so he can still be a good run defender. But especially in that system, playing behind that defensive line, I really think getting a guy like Jeremiah Trotter that has the speed to get sideline to sideline, rather than getting like the traditional 6'5", 255 linebacker to kind of roam in the middle of the field. Getting a guy like this gives this defense a little bit more flexibility. And yeah, he's a really good coverage linebacker. He does kind of get mixed up in some running schemes a little bit and just kind of gets caught up in like the processing of it. But I think the physical tools are there, and he has the physicality to at least be willing to stick his nose in the run game. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a great player here, getting one of the top linebackers in the class. So, which is always good to say. Be like, doesn't matter where you took him, but he was still at that position, that one of the top ones in the class. And so,
yeah,
do want to touch on a little bit too. You mentioned they missed out on the quarterback position here. So Bo Nix was taken next by the Rams. I want you to dive into a little bit on why we didn't go with Bo Nix, because
I felt like
we debated that back and forth for a little bit.
So they could go with Bo Nix. However, I feel like if they go with Bo Nix, I definitely think that if he's here at 51, I think that's much more of a conversation. But I think if you draft him at 20, you're kind of in the same conversation that you're already in right now with Kenny Pickett. And it's like, all right, you have this game manager quarterback that has is a slightly plus in playmaking abilities, but again, I just don't think he's really the answer there. And I think with the quarterbacks that they have, I think those picks would be better spent elsewhere. In my opinion, I mean, I could be wrong. I think Bo Nix is a great athlete, but so I think he's more of a college quarterback than an NFL one at this point. And I to be fair, that's my opinion today. I have gone back and forth on Bo Nix on how much I actually like him or not throughout this entire process. So
I think that's going to happen a lot on where he's going to fall. So I think that's very fair. I think it's Kenny Pickett. You've only seen him for 2 years, and it has been in the Matt Canada system. So we'll have to kind of see how he does under a new offensive coordinator system. But let's go to the last pick here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We now finally did address that receiver position. Guy that you really like, Jeremiah Thrash.
Jamari.
Sorry about that. Tell the Steelers fans why you really like Jamari or Jamari Thrash here within the Steelers system.
Besides the fact that I actually think he has a really cool name, but he's just a really good wide receiver. I think he's a good complement. I don't want to say Debo-esque because nobody's quite Debo, but he has the playmaking ability after the catch, I think, to really be a problem. He has good contact balance with the ball in his hands. He doesn't run the crispest of routes, but he has good hands. And I definitely think with some refinement, especially the way Pittsburgh develops and pumps out receivers, I think this would be a great landing spot for him to go because I think he would fit right in because he's Deontay Johnson's height with more of like a running back build, but he's not quite a true X receiver. So I think he would be a great power slot for them and kind of be in that Juju Smith-Schuster role that they were running back when he was there. So I really like this one. Another one, if George Pickens, it was pretty well spoken this year. He had some character concerns. If they don't like George Pickens and potentially want to trade him and get some draft capital back for him, a guy that I also like would be Brendan Rice here. Very similar build, size and build, 6'3", 215, great hands, son of Jerry Rice. But I also think if Cedric Von Prawn, he goes the pick before this. But if he's there at 84, I think that would be another really solid pick. And again, just addressing the interior of that offensive line again would be another good pick as well.
Yeah, and I think to addressing the position here, I think as right now, I mean, I like George Pickens on one side, Deontay Johnson on the other. I think that's a really good one. I'm trying to pull up their depth chart here because I know their slot receiver isn't really. I think it's Allen Robinson, but I think that's it. It's just those two top receivers. I think if you can get a good, solid slot receiver, or at least a third receiver as well, then you still have Najee Harris and Jalen Warren in the backfield. I just really like all their skill position players, and then Pat Freiermuth also. I would it be the best skill position player in the skill position room in the league, but I mean top 10 at worst. Like
Yeah.
if you stack them up
Oh,
against
yeah.
a lot of these other teams. So in general, let's quickly just kind of recap the picks here. So we had them go with cornerback here, Terry Arnold, and then move on to Jeremiah Trotter. First 2 picks defensive, but then get Jamari Thrash with the last pick here to address the receiver position. All in all, I really like this layout so far. I think that we did miss on the interior offensive line, but also too looking back on it, I think it's just going to depend on who's available. I think they got best player available and went that approach. And so, in general, is there anything that you think that could have been improved on, or any other potential players that they should have taken?
No, I mean, not really. I like the picks that we made. And the one thing I will say is, like, if they do get the opportunity to address the interior offensive line, they might take it. But there is something to be said for taking the best player available, and I do feel that is kind of what we did for them in this draft. It just kind of happened to be 2 defensive players and then adding a wide receiver there at the end, just because it's hard to. I don't want to try to force a square peg into a round hole with an interior offensive lineman. I'm like, okay, but then I think if you look at it with Jamari Thrash in this offense, I think he probably helps out more than a guard at 84 does. And so that to me is just kind of like our logic with it. So yeah, I like it all in all, but let's go ahead and wrap up this mock draft here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of the Steelers 3-round mock. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? And other than that, we'll see you guys next time.